Hey, what's up, y'all? Dan back at you with another video. This one is a video that I really wanted to get out there and talk about. What you're seeing is a Solar Titan getting a super in 1 minute using all of their abilities. This build carried me through my solo legendary Lightfall campaign. I really didn't have any issues, and I even had a really easy callous solo kill with no cheese, putting a lot of the abilities around Heart of my Sight and just putting all my abilities from the armor charge system that has come in Lightfall allowed me to get a very fast super in this one clip. But I wanted to use this clip because this shows that you can use it in even in-game content as a solo player. Now, the reason I wanted to get this video out there is because on my Twitch and my TikTok, I've been asked a lot about what I'm using. What am I doing that's allowing me to have all my abilities up all the time? How am I popping a super and then getting another one back so quickly? I think this is a really good build for anyone that's looking to just do the Lightfall campaign and just do other content in the game as a solo player and they're a Titan. I know Solar has always been a really good build, but this is just a really cool way to just take some of the new stuff that's got added from the armor charge system and the artifact and just have a really good time. This is probably one of the builds that I've had the most fun using because it's the more enemies that are around me, the better the build gets, especially with the updates to fire bolts and with the ability to have the fragment that anytime you get a grenade kill, you get healed. Is just fantastic. It's not going to be a very long video. I'm going to just walk you through the build and what I use and how I make it all work. You can always take all these things and change them and switch them up however it's necessary. But I do think if you take this build as necessary and how I do it, you're going to have a great time using it. All right, I think the biggest thing that we just got to talk about real quickly is the new mod loadout system and all that we have in Destiny makes these videos even easier and more straightforward for people to look at and see. So this is how I have my current build going, and I'm going to walk you through each piece, where to put it, what ones you want to have, what you can mix up as well, and how I like to switch it up based off of what I'm doing. But this is what I'm going to show you. This is what my loadout has. I don't know why it says void. Whatever. This is the build. So on the helmet, I like to run a minor discipline. This is going to be a little bit different if you have artifice armor. A lot of my armor is artifice, but if you don't have artifice, just use what you can where you want to put it. The only thing that's going to be different is on the artifice armor, you're going to have a free extra 3 resilience if you want to, or the discipline. All I have that for is just to get me over the hump, just to get a little bit more resilience or discipline. But disregard that because it's not as important as the rest of the stuff. The main things we want to focus on the helmet is having ashes to assets. Gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. Multiple copies of this mod can be stacked. However, we don't need them because we're going to be always activating Heart of my Sight, using one ability to briefly improve your other abilities. What this does is it increases your abilities from your melee and your grenade, and it also increases the recharge time of your other abilities. So, like I said earlier, the more enemies you are killing, the more enemies you are defeating, the more ability uptime you have, the more you can spam. What this build is for is to spam your abilities as best as you can, so it requires you to use your abilities as best as you can, which in turn gives you more super faster, which is, you know, just keeps the gameplay loop going even more. So ashes to assets is very important because every time we toss a grenade, we're going to get some grenade energy back, and we're going to get more super energy off of that as well. The other one is hands-on, which every time we get a melee kill, we're going to get some super energy as well. So we're going to pop our melee, pop our grenade, pop our melee, pop our grenade. Each one is going to give us additional super energy every single time. This one is a bit of a freebie based off of what you're using. Currently, what I've been using is a lot of Forbearance and Gallahorn and Anarchy, but for the most part, Forbearance. If you are going to be using Forbearance or whatever, that's where you put that Siphon mod. Whatever weapon you're going to be mainly using with this, you want to make sure you're generating orbs from everywhere, because our armor charge is very important to always having orbs of power. The more orbs of power we pick up, the better this is going to be. So you want to have whatever your primary weapons are, that's your Siphon. That's what this armor piece is for. On the gloves, we're going to focus on just the same thing like Ashes to Assets and Hands-On. We're going to run Firepower. Your grenade final blows creates orbs of power. This is very important because we want to have as many orbs as possible, because every time we pick up orbs, we get stacks of armor charged so we can use later on. We also want to make sure that we have that going so we can get more super. This is to give us damage buffs, damage resistance, and getting our supers as fast as possible. So firepower, and then heavy-handed. So every time we get powered melees, we're going to create orbs of power. This is very important. So Ashes to Assets, firepower. Hands-on, heavy-handed. Keep those 4 things no matter what you're doing, and you're going to always generate orbs for you and your fire team no matter what. And of course, we're going to have resilience mods. This can be a bit different if you have better rolled armor. You want to always prioritize resilience and discipline. Intellect doesn't matter, strength doesn't matter, mobility doesn't matter, recovery doesn't matter. This build is going to give us very high intellect, very high strength, and very high recovery. So we're going to always have those with us anyway. The next thing is we want to put a resilience mod on our Heart of Emerald Sight. Of course, Heart of Emerald Sight is going to be the basis of our gameplay loop. So just put a resilience mod on there. Some of this can be changed, like I said, if you have better stat rolls, but we want to get as high. I like to go around tier 8 on my resilience and discipline. You could probably go a little higher or a little bit lower. I don't think you need to go any higher than tier 8. You see very high diminishing returns going any higher. Tier 8 is more than enough. The next thing is we're going to put on a Font of Endurance, where we pick up a orb of power. We get a 1 temporary armor charge for about 10 to 13 seconds. What this does is it does increase our resilience just to make us a little bit more tanky, give us that 30% damage resistance as long as we have 1 stack of armor charge. This is what we run simply to give us just more resistance to stay inside of the fight and just keep, you know, all of the abilities going and staying alive. That's why we run this. This is also why we don't need max resilience, because as long as we have an armor charge, we're going to have max resilience anyway. And as long as we have the armor charge, we can just constantly tank as much damage as possible. So Font of Endurance on the chest piece on top of Charged Up. Without Charged Up, you're only going to have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 stacks. What this does is increases the number of stacks on from our armor charge, so we can have 4 to 5, depending on which ones you put on. This is nice because we're going to be getting so many orbs anyway. We may as well take advantage of the additional stacks so we can have our timers and have our abilities and have all of our benefits up more. For the boots, I have Discipline on here, but you can change it up. Absolution. This is very important. Anytime you pick up an orb of power, all of your abilities are reduced. Your cooldowns. Reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power. This is very important each time. Absolution is super important because when you pick up orbs of power, since we're going to be making so many of them, it's going to increase our cooldowns every single time we pick up an orb of power. This goes for our shield, this goes for our grenade, and our melee. This is important because it just keeps things just going, just keeps them flowing. I like running Absolution. You don't need more than that. The other thing is recuperation, which, just like getting our abilities back, every time you pick up an orb of power, it gives you a big chunk of your health. That doesn't matter whether you're at high health, low health. This is nice because every single orb you pick up is going to give you a substantially noticeable amount of grenade energy, melee energy, and strength energy, and with recuperation, healing. So, between Font of Endurance, just giving us resistance, recuperation, also giving us healing, you just have more ways of just staying in the fight and just staying healed and staying at max health and just putting out as much damage as possible. And then finally, you just have a spot for your surges. So the surges, of course, is whatever weapon you are using, whichever one you're using for your siphon, you may as well take advantage of an extra 10% damage from the armor charges. Whenever you have the armor charge, you're going to do more damage. This is also why we want to have charged up. So the more stacks we have, the longer we have that damage increasing buff, that weapon boost. As if you remember from Font of Might or like from Elemental Wells, picking up an Elemental Well of your matching subtype would give you Font of Might, give you the Void, Arc, or Solar weapon boost. So now, the way we can do that now is with the Arc weapon surge. So I just switched this up based off of, Arc, Solar, Void, whatever I'm using. So whatever my siphon is, my surge changes with it. And finally, on the class item, you put your resilience mod here or your discipline mod, whichever one is going to get you to the next tier, up to tier 8. And then this is where you put your extra recovery, Font of Restoration. For every armor charge, you get extra healing. So your recovery goes up even higher. So you have the healing from recovery, you have the resistance from resilience, and you have the damage output from the surges. And you have multiple ways of making orbs no matter what, from your melee, from your ability, from your future weapons, and your super. And then of course time dilation, which turns that timer up from 10 seconds to about 13 seconds. This just is something I like to toss on. Gives you more time to have that damage buff, gives you more time to have that resistance, gives you more time to have that healing. All these things are really nice. You might as well put it on there. It's just going to be very noticeable. This is the one freebie. Because I like to pop my tower and barricade often, I might as well take advantage of Bomber, which gives you a chunk of your grenade back. If you are finding that you don't need it, this is a freebie slot. However, there's not a whole lot of things you can put here, but you can put some of the finishers. This is what I sometimes would do. Finisher, final blows generate an overshield, but this is your freebie slot. You have one spot free. Put it on that, and then you are good to go. We're gonna look over the subclass. This is what I run. This is the other part of the build. I like to run Throwing Hammer. Throwing Hammer basically gives you a powered melee 24/7. If for some reason you lose your hammer, any Titan knows losing your baby hammer is the worst possible thing. But if you lose your throwing hammer, towering barricade and your grenade will also be really, really, really good to giving you a new melee really quickly. And with Heart of Emerald Sight and with all the orbs you're already picking up anyway, you're gonna not be without your baby hammer for too long. In this build, I like to run Fireball Grenade. I've never used Fireball Grenade on a Titan, but with the artifact and with the changes that Ember of Resolve have given, where solar grenades give you cure on final blows, and with flared up from the artifact, where it applies more scorch stacks, and then also gives you fire sprites, which allows you to get just some fire sprites are going to spawn occasionally and give you ability energy as well and heal you. And then Rain of Fireballs gives you 2 charges. You see where I'm going with this? There's more abilities, more and more abilities. So what you do is you pop a wall, bonk a guy, and then toss a Fireball Grenade. And because the Fireball Grenade is like the Axiom Bolt, where it seeks in an AoE and then hits everything in that radius, With the Holy Heart of Endless Light buff, with the artifact buff, you are going to constantly kill stuff and get a big chunk of cure as well. And then, of course, is going to make you radiant, which is going to give you a damage buff, and it's going to constantly give you all of your abilities, as well as make a sunspot from Soul Invictus, which is going to get your healing and your restoration, and just all your abilities are just going to have very, very high synergy. And this is just what I like to run. Roaring Flames, which is another thing that just increases your ability, and also ignitions. Ignitions are really, really noticeable on here. The more you toss your firebolt grenades, the more you toss your bonk hammer, you're going to see a lot of chaining from ignitions, from scorch stacks, and just all that just is noticeable, and you get to stay in the fray even longer. Going over the fragments, once again, I like to run Ember of Resolve. This is super important. If for some reason you don't like the way firebolt grenades work, I would highly suggest fusion grenades and thermite grenades. Now, firebolt grenade has a very, very, very dumb base cooldown, and it's new, and I wanted to try it out. But if for some reason you don't like firebolt grenade, give thermite a shot. It's really good. Fusion grenades are also really good, but this is the new stuff. This allows you to have 2 as well, so you are never without a grenade in this build. But if you want to give others a shot, these 2 are also fantastic. And if you wanted to, healing. I don't think the healing is as necessary, because as you saw earlier, we have multiple ways to heal, and we're always in a state of resistance and recovery. So the healing grenades, while nice, are not super necessary. Solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant. This is super important because we always want to be in a state of restoration and radiant. Ember of Appearing is super important. We don't really care about the resilience nerf, because remember, we got the charge system going, so we're going to always get the extra resilience anyway. But this is just another way to just keep our restoration up and keep our radiant up. So every time we get the ability kills from the firebolt grenade or the bonk hammer or our super, we're always going to be in a state of healing no matter what. And we're also going to have the radiant damage buff no matter what. And as well, you see any anti-barriers that we come across are going to get stunned no matter what weapons you use. This is really good synergy for that as well. And then we have radiant and restoration effects applied have increased duration. Again, this is just another thing that increases our duration of everything. This is just really nice. This is why I run it. And power melee attacks against combatants make us radiant. This is pretty much what I like to run to keep me in a state of healing and resilience and high damage and high ability uptime and high ability spam. Allows us to get more supers off as well. Now, if you're really fancy, what I will sometimes do, which is super like overkill, I'll swap my chest piece to literally the exact same thing, and then I will put on Sentinel Steps just for the extra damage in super. Only for super. Just to give the extra 50% damage to my super for a boss or for something like that, but just sometimes. But otherwise, with the changes to the super anyway that do more damage from this season, I think this is more than enough. And that's the entire video. If you have any changes, any recommendations, or things that you want to do, feel free to leave them in the comment section. But I think this video and this build is going to be really good, and I hope more people check it out and use it. Give Firebolts a shot. I got other videos coming from a lot of the other builds that I've been really enjoying this season, but I want to get this one out first, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you watched it all the way up to this point, truly, truly appreciate it. Next video should be a Hunter one, so be on the lookout for that one. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.